morning. Charles Fillmore writes in Talks on Truth, page 97, "The image and likeness of our spiritual body is as thoroughly defined in us as is the tree in the acorn. Does the acorn consult anything outside of itself as to how it should bring forth a tree? Certainly not. It simply rests in spirit and unfolds from moment to moment as moved by the impulses within. Exactly the same law is operative in bringing forth the God-human. The external, striving, wandering must stop its restless seeking without and repose at the center. It must be obedient to that center and learn the language of spirit." Please read the affirmation with me, with conviction. I live fully anchored in the awareness of my unity with the whole and allow the authentic self to be revealed in my prayers, thoughts, words, and actions.
Powerful. Yes, beautiful. Wonderful reading by Charles Fillmore, who is a New Thought writer, and he and his wife, the founder of the whole Unity movement, for those of you who don't know. I want to read that last line again. He said, "The external striving, wandering, must stop its restless seeking without, looking outside of ourselves, and repose at the center. It must be obedient to that center and learn the language of the Spirit." The language of the Spirit. So this whole idea of going to the center over and over again, to tune in, look for what the guidance is a message or an idea that we focus on a lot because it is so crucial. It is so important for the unfoldment of our lives, for being who we were born to be, which is the essence, qualities of who we are. That beautiful, authentic self is one of the names we call for the divine self. A lot of people like this term authentic self because it just gives it another quality or dimension. But it's with a capital A and a capital S. We're talking about the divine self, the authentic self. So this month we're talking about a roadmap of qualities of the authentic self, 7 of them, that we can decide upon. We have the power of decision. We can decide, this is something I choose to more fully express in my life. And in doing so, we call forth that beautiful, radiant, luminous presence, that super luminous, infinite presence from within us into greater expression. So that's the language of the Spirit. The language of the Spirit are these qualities of the Spirit that we call forth and express into our lives. And the more that we practice it, the more natural it becomes. When you think about little children, they naturally do that, don't they? Children naturally have this luminosity and vibrancy about them. We saw that in little Lily as she was wandering around. And what happens over time is that through socialization, different exposures, it can be the media, it can be all kinds of things, little by little, there's a tendency, I'm not going to say everybody does it, but there's a tendency to put on a mask. And the masks of fear and doubt and uncertainty and all of those other things that cover that infinite luminosity that we are in truth. And so what we're doing is we're actually in the process of returning back to that authentic self, that luminosity, by peeling away. The spiritual path is 100% about subtraction. We talked about that a few weeks ago, of letting go, subtracting, eliminating those thought forms, those stories that we tell ourselves about who we are, and getting back in touch with that vibrancy of the divine. The presence of God itself is right in the center of your being as you. As you. That's the authentic self. So I want to do a quick review of of just some of the qualities that we talked about. We talked about 3 last week. And the first one was wholeness. And wholeness being a quality that is recognized in that we are connected with all of life. Everything is interconnected. There's nothing really that's separate. Our senses might tell us that, but there's nothing that's separate. We are all interconnected. And we are whole, perfect, and complete as we are, with all of our seeming human, what we might call flaws, that in truth, the wholeness already exists in every moment. And what we're simply doing is unfolding that wholeness as we move through life. So breathe into that wholeness. And just repeat after me, I'm whole, perfect, and complete, just as I am here and now.
I'm whole, perfect, and complete, just the way I am now.
Here and now, yes. And I am also connected with all of life.
And I am also connected with all of life.
So that's wholeness. The next one is reverence. And this idea of reverence, this is a quality of the authentic self, is the ability to not only see the divine everywhere, but also to have like a quality of adoration and appreciation for it. So here's what I'd like you to say with me, just to anchor it in. I revere all of life.
I revere all of life
As the divine expression.
as the divine expression.
It is holy.
It is holy.
Fearlessness was the third one we talked about. And that is facing life fearlessly, because we understand that the divine, being in the center of our being, is for us. There's nothing really against us. Everything is for us. So when we move through life fearlessly, we allow ourselves to take the opportunities that are before us to evolve and transform. So just repeat after me. I know who walks within me.
I know who walks within me.
So I am fearless.
So I am fearless.
Usually we say who walks with me, but it's just a little shift there just to help us get tuned in. So today I have 3 more, and then we'll do the final one next week. Today I want to talk about first integrity. And integrity may not be what you think. So I'd like to tell a story first about an emperor from the Far East who realized that it was time for him, or pretty close to time for him, to step down and choose a new emperor. And he decided to call all of the young people in the kingdom to come around him. And he spoke to them and he said, this time next year, one of you will be the new emperor. And a little boy by the name of Ling was part of that crowd. And so he was just, he was going, wow, how could this be possible? And the king explained, and this is how it works. I'm giving each of you a seed. At the end of the year, I'd like you to bring in the results of planting the seed, and then I will let you know who is the next emperor. So all of the children were so excited. They went home, and Ling as well. And he went home, he told his mother how excited he was, and she helped him gather the soil and a pot and plant it, and then she showed him how to take care of it, water it, make sure it got plenty of sun and warmth and all of that. And 1 week went by, nothing happened. 2 weeks, nothing happened. 3 weeks, nothing happened. And as he was moving through the village, the other children were all talking about how all of their seeds were sprouting, and they were so excited, and they were getting all kinds of really great results. And he was feeling like a failure. He's like, what is going on? So he just kept on keeping on, and his mother said, just keep working at it. And what happened over time, of course, is that it never sprouted, and a year had gone by, and it was time for everybody to gather and show their results to the emperor. And here he has this empty pot, and he talked to his mother about it, and she said, take the empty pot, take what you have, your seed is still there, take it, be honest. Your honesty is very important, your integrity is very important. So he very sheepishly took his pot, stood at the back of the room as all of these other young people had all of these amazing plants and trees all flowering and gorgeous. And suddenly the emperor walks in and he greets all of the young people. They are so excited, can't wait to see who has the coolest plant and can be chosen to be the emperor. And the emperor looks around the room, he sees all of these plants, and then he spots Ling at the back holding his empty pot. And he tells the guards to go get Ling. And Ling is like, oh my gosh, he's gonna have me put to death. He's like really scared. So the guards bring him forward. The king bows to him and said, what is your name? And he said, my name is Ling. And he announces to the crowd, this is Ling, your new emperor. And all the other kids are like, their mouths drop open, and Ling's mouth drops open. And the king said, you see, I gave each and every one of you a boiled seed. And so most of you, all of you except for Ling, obviously replaced them with other seeds. So I would like somebody to replace me that has integrity and has the courage and the honesty to come forward even if he didn't have a plant. Beautiful story about integrity, about honesty, even when things don't look so good. And how that ultimately is a beautiful demonstration of the authentic self. So integrity, when you look at what integrity is from a spiritual standpoint, it is the expression of the authentic self in all of our thoughts, words, and actions. It's when we take time with spiritual practice, go within, tap into that, and come more and more and more often from that source within us, we naturally live in integrity. Honesty is an outward expression of that thing called integrity. So integrity. The next one that I want to talk about is humility. And, before I do that, I have something else I want to share with you because about integrity. Matthew Fox, I don't know how many of you know who he is actually in the area this weekend. And I went and saw him along with Candace the other night. And he spoke about the mystical path. And many of you already know that that's what this spiritual tradition is. New Thought, Ancient Wisdom, Science of Mind is the mystical path. It's the mystics, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad. These are all the people from the other religions who began the religions. It came from a mystical experience and a deep connection with the divine. So we are the mystical path. But he was talking about what is a mystic. He said we are hardwired to be mystics. We talked about that a little bit earlier. We see that in little children. They're natural mystics. Mystics have energy and vibrancy. You can just see that. And he talked about, similar to what we're talking about now, but with slightly different terms. He talked about how over time, things get covered over. He didn't say masks, but he said we begin to often express something called apathy. And that apathy is something that is really the main obstacle for real, powerful change on this planet. And the environmental issues, the social justice issues, all require the opposite of apathy, which is zeal. And he described it as fire in the belly. I'd like to think of it as also fire in the heart. Fire in the belly, fire in the heart. On fire with the Spirit. Seeing things that are before us, not avoiding them, and getting involved in one way or another. He talked about our elders in this country. And this is obviously not true about all of our elders. But he mentioned that we really need the wisdom of the elders. Really need that. And because the elders of all the cultures through all time have been the holders, not only the holders of the wisdom, but have been the light that helps to shine forth the path, the vision for moving forward as humanity. So he said, rather than use the term retirement, he said, how about this? Refirement, where we fire ourselves up again, allow ourselves to be fired up about some cause, some purpose that calls our hearts and our souls into expression. He said another thing that was really interesting, because sometimes we get the idea that the young people really aren't that interested in the wisdom of the elders. But he said in talking to a lot of young people, he found that yes, they are. They are really longing for the wisdom of their elders. So put that in your in your inner inventory. And so as we walk our mystical path here in this beautiful community, as we allow ourselves to be fired up with the Spirit, notice what calls you. What is it in the world? I know my calling is teaching spiritual principle, modeling and living the mystical path. I also have been recently called to this whole peace movement in Wilmington, along with Lori. Lori and I have been attending, well, she's been attending a lot more meetings than I have, but we've been, we're fired up about this idea of Peace Week in September in Wilmington, and all of the activities that will help to build a culture of peace more fully, completely, and powerfully in Wilmington, in the state of Delaware, really. So fire in the belly, zeal. One of the most powerful questions to ask when you turn within in your meditation is, how can I serve? Just simply ask that question, and believe me, it will be revealed to you. I know many of you are already in service, but just something to think about. He said that the prophet is the mystic in action in the world, involved in social justice, involved in environmentalism. So the modern day prophets are those who are allowing that call to be acted out in their lives. So this again is integrity, when our outer actions reflect our inner selves. Thomas Macaulay said the measure of a man's real character is what he would do if he knew he would never be found out. This is integrity taken to the limit. This is another aspect of it. What we would do, the measure of a man's character or his integrity, is what he would do if he knew he would never be found out. Something to contemplate. All right, humility. I'm going to start with a quote by St. Augustine. He said, "Do you wish to rise? Then lay first the foundation of humility." Now, humility traditionally has meant the act of being modest and respectful, right? I mean, that's what a lot of us think of it when we think of humility. Well, the Aramaic translation, this is where I love the Aramaic language, takes it deeper than this. It is, we have from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the meek, another way of saying humble, for they shall inherit the earth. The Aramaic translation is being teachable and open to many perspectives. Being teachable and open to many perspectives. Allowing ourselves to look at something from here, from here, from here, a lot of different angles in the process of making our decisions, and also being teachable, not thinking like we know it all, that we're still teachable. Because if we think we know it all, like, oh, I've heard that before, there may be things I'm saying today, oh, I've heard that before. If you notice yourself saying that, are you allowing yourself to be teachable? Because with each evolutionary step, this is what I've noticed about myself. I can go back and read the same quote, like that beautiful one by Charles Fillmore that we heard today, and I hear it on a different level. I hear it on a different level. So being open and teachable allows us to receive the gifts of the Spirit, the gifts of the authentic self. There's a story. No, that's another one. Sorry. When you think about the mystics themselves, Jesus, Buddha, these beings that became so exalted and achieved these amazing states of consciousness and wisdom that they imparted, do you think they were closed-minded? I mean, do you think they got that way by being closed? Talk about total openness and receptivity, being teachable. That is paramount to this way of being. So this is what I wanted to talk about. Our tradition is all about open-mindedness and being willing to be taught, being willing to be open and see things from a different perspective. 3 of us came yesterday to work with Marcia Aaron using the Byron Katie method. And I will speak for myself. I am there as much a participant as anybody else because I continue to read, I continue to go within and listen, I continue to do a lot of inquiry and trying to deepen my understanding so that I can move things out of the way and let more and more of myself come through. So the situation that I brought was the whole thing about, and some of you have heard me mention it before, is I was really appalled by the amount of trash that I saw when we were in India. But I knew that my focus on that was not a healthy focus, right? It was not a healthy focus. So what I did is I wanted to bring that to the Byron Katie process, the work, and get to the bottom of it, why that caused so much reaction and anger and frustration in me so that I could heal from it, because I know that it's important to see God in everything, right? Even the trash. But I wasn't there. So because of this thought and whatever the underlying belief was behind it. So in the process of going through the work and doing that whole worksheet, what I began to discover is that my negative reaction toward the trash was, I was actually angry at people who throw trash. I mean, that's kind of the way I started it. But my negativity was trash that I was putting in my own body, those thoughts, negative thoughts, those reactions, polluting my own body, and also, because we're all one, polluting the body of humanity, the consciousness of humanity. So, and see, I got another shift. I was feeling that. So that shift helped me to see how important it is. I made a conscious decision that I choose to see the good. It's about looking for the good. So what's the good in having trash? I like looked at what is it? What is the good in trash being thrown around? And what I realized is that it stirs up, the contrast in life stirs up creativity. And many of you have maybe seen online, I saw something come through from Facebook about the creative ways. There's some young man who's come up with a creative way to clean up all of the plastic in the Pacific Ocean. And he has a plan to do it, that he can do it, a lot of it, in 10 years. What it does, do you see, is all of these things, no matter what we see with our human eyes and how we interpret it, there's a higher kind of thing that's going on. It stirs up creativity. So what's the creativity in me? I always look back, so what's going on with me? I mean, certainly I can participate in cleanups and I can clean up after myself, and if I see trash, I can pick it up. But we know that that's just a little minute part of the whole entire planet. It really, for me, is about realizing that my inner work is my contribution to the cleanliness of the planet. And the actions that come from that inner awareness. I'm doing my part to clean up human consciousness. And that's way more powerful than we think, because everything begins with a thought. Everything begins with a thought. So a great awareness. I'm no longer choosing to pollute consciousness on this whole concept of trash. And the truth is God is even in the trash.
Amen.
Right? Okay. The quality of abundance. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's humility. Being teachable. Equanimity. I love this term. I remember when I first heard it, it was like, what is that? Equanimity. The dictionary defines it as evenness of mind, especially under stress. Evenness of mind, especially under stress. It's non-resistance to our conditions. So here's the story now. Once there was a king who had anything but equanimity. When things were not going well, he would be explosive and angry and full of rage. And when things were going well, he'd get all puffed up, like, cool, look what I'm doing, how well my life is going. So but he knew that this was not being an effective king. He knew he had to do something about it. So he gathered all the sages and the wise people, wise in his kingdom, and gathered them together and said, I have a task for all of you. I would like you to gather together and come up with something that you can inscribe on the inside of this ring. And he gave them the ring, and that I could look at in times of getting puffed up or enraged, that would help me come back to my center and be that evenness of mind that would really and truly serve my kingdom well. So they all went away and they worked and they came up with all kinds of ideas, and they finally came up with a solution. And the king asked them that it be very short. So they actually came up with 4 words, and handed him the ring, and he looked inside, and it said, "This too shall pass." Right? Equanimity. This too shall pass. Understanding the conditions in our lives, they come and they go. But the thing that we have that's changeless is our core and center, the authentic self. The authentic self. So Dennis Merritt Jones says this is actually adapted from him, but basically he says this about equanimity. He said, it's to be like the morning sun that shines on all beings with no judgment. I love those metaphors. In other words, to perceive through the eyes of the silent witness that is rooted in our wholeness. And learning to, in Byron Katie's words, love what is. And it's like, okay, there it is again. I have to love what is. I have to love the trash. Not have to, choose to. So in order to have equanimity, it's important for me, for all of us, to stay centered, keep our center in the midst of challenging situations. And the thing is to have compassion for ourselves when we don't, because it just means we have something else to learn. And it's okay. We're on an eternal journey of learning, so we have plenty of time. And this is that natural unfoldment, of the spirit, the essence of who we are that happens as we just continue to look at all these little places where we react, and then to question the thought behind that. So let's end this with just making some very powerful statements. I'm going to invite you to stand just to anchor these beautiful qualities: integrity, humility, and equanimity. And in your most powerful voice, I'd like you to claim this for yourself. So repeat after me. I have integrity.
I have integrity.
Today my outer actions reflect my inner wholeness. In humility, I am open to new ways of perceiving and believing. In the face of life's conditions, times of trouble and times of plenty, I face it with equanimity. With ease and grace. And so it is. All right.